Okay. Okay. Hello, YouTube. This is PNG Media News again, back at you with another interview. In this segment, I'm calling people you should know. I'm interviewing a fellow Chicagoan. She goes by the name of Indigo the Writer. She's going to talk to you about her book, about being an author, about spirituality, and just a whole variety of things. So this should be a good interview. I'm looking forward to it. So Indigo, introduce yourself to the
Mhm.
people.
Hi. My name is Sakai actually, but Indigo the Writer is my writer's handle. Um, so I'm 27. I have been writing for ever, and I just published my book, the number nine, last year, in September. So,
Okay, so this is it right here, the number nine. And where can people get that book?
so they can purchase it from Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So they can just go to the search bar and they can put in the number nine, and it should pop.
Okay, cool. So before we jump into the book, tell us about your background. Like, where you from?
From Chicago.
Okay, born and raised in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Chicago. Um, I never lived outside of the city until recently. I had moved to California for work. So
Okay.
yeah, so I just come back to visit and then I go back out there and stuff.
Oh, all right. What part of California did you go to?
The Bay Area, San
Oh, the Bay.
Francisco.
All right, all right. So, so what high school did you go to growing up in the city?
I went to Kenwood.
Oh,
Kenwood.
really? I did too. I
Yes,
graduated in 1992.
the best high school in the city, okay?
Exactly, exactly. Okay. So I understand that you work as a nurse.
Yes, I'm a travel nurse now.
Oh, nice, nice. And how's that for
Yeah.
you?
It's good. It's good. I love being a nurse. Well, I've been a nurse for 4 years. And so then I just started traveling last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's how I ended up in San Francisco traveling for work and
Okay,
stuff.
nice, nice. Okay, so
Yeah.
your book, the number nine. Okay, why did you choose that title?
Um, the number nine, why did I choose that title? I'm really into numbers. Um, I think numbers communicate a lot of things to us.
Mhm.
Um, And so I wanted a book title that was going to showcase some kind of number. I'm really Robert Greene is one of my favorite authors, and I know that he has like the 48 laws of power. And I just thought that the fact that he chose 48 was really intriguing. I always think that numbers are very intentional too. And so I feel like when you see a number and when you choose a number, it's for a reason. So
Mhm.
I wanted to communicate some deep intention. And so then I wanted a number, but the number I chose the number nine because it's the last single digit number.
Okay.
And so when you look at its meaning, it means culminations, endings, beginnings, um, ultimate wisdom, and it's the number of humanitarianism. So like ultimate compassion, um, and so that's why I choose that. That's why I choose the number nine, because mainly because of the culminations, like the endings and beginnings, because I feel like with every beginning, there's something that has to end, and with every ending, there's something that has to begin. And I think that we as humans can kind of be afraid of those culminations. We can kind of be afraid of things ending, and we can kind of be afraid of things beginning, but without that continuous cycle, the world kind of ceases to exist. And so I'm like, I wanted to communicate that through my book, which I feel like throughout the book there's a lot of talk about, just being in tune with oneself and knowing, you know feeling connected to source and feeling connected to ourselves and stuff like that. So I feel like that has something to do with the number nine.
Okay, nice,
So I
nice.
hope I didn't ramble too
No,
much.
no, no, you do good. That made a lot of sense. Now your book is
Okay.
small, but it
Yes.
says a whole lot. I mean, for such a small
Yes.
book, it really speaks to you. And you cover a variety of topics like love, envy, and stuff like that. So I kind of want to talk about that. Now, you
Okay.
have a chapter called Envy. Is envy the
Uh-huh.
same thing as jealousy?
Um, hmm. I want to say yeah. You
Okay.
know, I don't really. I've never thought about envy and jealousy being different.
Mhm.
Honestly, maybe maybe jealousy is the beginning of envy or something.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, I always think of envy as being something that's so deeply rooted. I feel like everybody experiences jealousy, but I think that when you don't acknowledge the jealousy,
Mhm.
then it sprouts into continuously feeling envious,
Mm.
you know?
Okay. Okay. And why do you feel that it was important to do a chapter on envy?
Because people always shy away from those kind of emotions as if they don't experience them. And I know that people are lying. Like when they, because I hear it so often. Somebody actually told me that, and I was having a conversation with somebody, and they was like, I don't get jealous. And I'm like, you're lying. Like, that's not true. Like, you're lying. Like, everybody gets jealous on some occasion. Everybody has those emotions where they may feel that somebody has something that they want, or they may feel that somebody is experiencing an experience that they wish. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has those moments of comparison where they're looking to somebody else and they're like, man, why not me? Or something, and then we tend to bury the emotion and we don't acknowledge it, and then that's why it gets bigger and it festers instead of just realizing it as a human emotion, something that you can overcome.
Mhm.
And I think that it's quite natural to feel jealous at times, but what's unnatural is letting the feeling just fester until it turns into bitterness, towards other people. Acknowledge the feeling, know what it's from, know the root, and get over it. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that it's something we should beat ourselves up over. And I wanted to normalize that kind of emotion and that kind of feeling, instead of making people feel like they're bad if they jealous, or they're bad if they may be comparing themselves to other. Those things happen all the time. So
Okay. Interesting. All right. Now you had another chapter called Love. Now, you said something interesting. You explained unconditional love, but you explained it in a way that it's not necessarily what people commonly think of unconditional love. So tell us
yeah,
what unconditional love is from your view.
I do think that humans can learn to love unconditionally, but I've just learned a new concept um that I was meditating on.
Mm.
And I'm a firm believer in God and Jesus Christ. Everybody who reads the book can kind of tell, you know. But Jesus, he he hmm, Jesus is capable of loving un- purely unconditional.
Okay.
Like, the love that God and Jesus our Lord has for us is purely unconditional. It's true, it's pure. I feel like those are the only beings that can ever practice true unconditional love, which is no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter who you are, no matter if you denounce me, I'm going to love you anyway. Those are the only beings that are capable of doing that. Humans, not so much. You know what I'm saying? I do think that you can love a person in spite of, but I don't think that you can actively participate in love if it's harmful, because you're not God, you're not Jesus, you're a man. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's important to understand unconditional love through the lens of still having boundaries and still understanding your limitations as human. You know what I'm saying? Because you can be in a relationship with someone and they're abusive and they're toxic, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna love you unconditionally. And it's like you're constantly just being disobedient to your boundaries, or you're constantly um like disregarding your needs and your health. And it's like you don't have the capacity to do that. You're not God. You know what I'm saying? Only God and only Jesus Christ our Lord can love us purely, unconditionally, and purely unadulterated, not humans. You know what I'm saying? Um, I do think that it's nice, when you have love for somebody and you can love them in spite of, but to engage in love that's harmful and that's toxic, and to put unconditional love name tag on it is kind of foolish to me,
Mhm.
you know. I still think that, you know, and I think that having those boundaries and being responsible and making sure that your loved ones are held accountable for their actions is a form of unconditional love as well, you know. So
Interesting. All right. Now, second thing, and also in this chapter of love, you mentioned part of your spiritual practice is using tarot cards.
I do use tarot
Right.
cards.
And you also mentioned that so do you find that the tarot cards are like incompatible or contradiction to traditional Christian beliefs? I heard you mention that, you're a believer in Jesus. You didn't necessarily say that you're a Christian, but because a lot of people find those type of things incompatible, how do you
Hmm.
reconcile the two?
Um, I look okay. I don't know how I don't want to make any comparisons, but here it is. Everything has God in it.
Okay.
God is in everything. So I look at nothing. If you don't set godly intentions when you're using anything, it has no power.
Okay.
So I don't think the tarot cards themselves are powerful. I think that if you're going to God in prayer, everybody has their different tools, Some people may need music, some people may journal, some people may go directly to the Bible and be able to interpret that. Some people may use tarot cards,
Mm.
and I feel like if that is a way that you feel that you can communicate with God the best, I don't really see a problem with it. I can see how people would, see a problem with it as it being like, people say like it's witchcraft or it's idolatry. I don't worship anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
right.
I don't worship anything. I don't think that anything has power until God gives it power. So,
Okay.
and I feel like the only way for tarot cards to have any meaning to me is if I'm going to God and I'm asking for some kind of guidance. I read the Bible. I'm really starting to get more into reading the Bible, but just like the same, my tools change. Sometimes I may need a different message to be communicated with me in a different way. I don't think that using tarot cards are bad, you
Mm.
know.
Okay. And what also the tarot cards mean, like, do you do readings for people?
I have in the past.
Okay.
Hmm.
All
I
right.
have in the past, and to me, it's always it's like a spiritual occurrence, like a communion. I always pray before I do anything, just like before I eat my food. I pray before I shuffle my deck. I'm praying with the person that I'm doing the reading for. Like, I'm never trying to exclude God or feel like these tarot cards are more powerful than guidance from him. Never, so I didn't, maybe that view will change, but that's kind of like my view right now.
Okay.
So
Good. So what I'm doing, I'm jumping around to the different chapters. Now you have a chapter called gratitude. Now,
hmm.
I've heard people look at gratitude different ways. Some of it's like thankfulness, or part of gratitude is being able to willingness to give back. How do you define gratitude?
Um, Gratitude, I feel like just being grateful.
Okay.
Just expressing grace, not even for material things, just for everything. Like I'm I have my moments where I am very ungrateful, and I know, and I said that in the book. Like I said, if I had a nickel for every time that I've accused somebody of being ungrateful, I'd be rich. But if I
Mm-hmm.
had a nickel for every time I've been ungrateful, I'd be richer. And that's to say that um sometimes we need to just spend more time counting our blessings, you know, and sometimes the blessings don't always have to be um something material like money or a new job. Sometimes I just be waking up and I just be like, I'm just thankful for God's grace and mercy. You know what I'm saying? Like, though, just things like that. And I feel like when we start counting those kind of blessings, the ones that we take for granted, we really realize how fortunate we are, you know? Um, and so yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
Gratitude.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Now the first chapter, like I said, I'm skipping around here. You put
Hmm.
anxiety as your first chapter. Was that intentional? And talk more about anxiety, because I'm a therapist myself, and I see a lot of people these days, especially since the pandemic started, coming in for treatment
Hmm.
with anxiety. I mean, kids, adults, middle-aged people. All these medications are being prescribed for anxiety. Talk to us about anxiety.
Was it you know what? It wasn't intentional. That was just the first thing that I was writing about.
Okay.
Actually, the number nine started as just like a journal entry. I was going through a lot
Mhm.
actually. And I've always journaled I've written like my whole life, whether it's been like poetry, short stories, journaling, but that's always been my favorite outlet is communicating through words and communicating through writing and imagery. And I was journaling and I was feeling like so anxious, so fearful. And that was the first thing that I was writing about. And then I prayed on it and God communicates so clearly to me sometimes. I feel like sometimes I lose him in a lot of the noise and stuff in the world. But when I do have those moments where I am able to just sit still and I'm able to relax, he communicates so clearly. Um, and he was like, turn this into something else. This could help somebody. And so as I meditated more on anxiety and it just started to just flow. Um, so it wasn't intentional. It was just like the first thing that I was writing about
Okay.
because that's how I was feeling. Um, Anxiety is so normal. I hate how commercialized and how big it has become. And so um like people use it almost as a crutch now,
Mm.
and I'm like looking at anxiety like it's so natural. It's so normal. You will never encounter a person in this world that doesn't have any doubts, that doesn't have any fears, that doesn't have or didn't have a moment where they felt low about themselves, that didn't have fears around relationships with others. That's so natural and normal and so ingrained into human experience. I'm wondering why people are thinking they're abnormal for that they need medications for that. Now, granted, I know that I'm not trying to like disregard the medical field and its take on anxiety, but it's so part of us that it shouldn't be treated like a sickness, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay.
Like, it's so part of the human experience. Why do people think that they're sick for being anxious? I don't get that. And that's why I'm like, I really wanted that to be told in the book. Like, you really can take care of your anxiety on your own. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? You
Okay.
can. Like, you don't need a lot of these things that people say you're not sick because you're anxious. That's kind of like my main message. You're not a sick person because you're anxious. You're not. an abnormal person because you're anxious. You're just anxious. It's normal, it's natural. And I think that's the main message that I want to get across to people. Anxiety is very normal. It is. Like,
But
you
can it
know,
ever become crippling?
if you let it,
Okay.
if you let it, and I think a lot of that comes from, I think, I think that if you let it, if you don't acknowledge it as normal,
Mm.
I think that it becomes crippling. When we acknowledge something as other, it always becomes bigger than what it is. When something seems abnormal or something seems, you know, like it's not supposed to be there, it always gets bigger than what it is. I always say to make peace with your shadow self, to make peace with your dark side, you just have to accept that it's there. Usually it dissipates on its own. Some of the time when we are anxious, at least something for me when I found out that I am being mindful, like, okay, I am anxious. Usually, once you acknowledge that you're anxious, it kind of seems smaller than what you thought. Just from the simple acknowledgement of saying, okay, I'm feeling anxious, then it kind of grows smaller in severity.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Now you had another chapter uh, called fear. Now I find that interesting. I would have thought, because like fear, isn't that like a form of anxiety? Or can it be a form
Yeah,
of anxiety?
I agree. I think so.
Okay.
I think that most of the time when we are anxious, we're scared of something,
Mm.
you know? Like people who have anxiety in relationships usually are afraid of or have some type of fear of people, some type
Mm.
of fear of vulnerability, some type of fear of closeness. And I
Okay.
feel like sometimes when we're anxious at work, we have fear about our abilities, we have fear about our performance levels. When we're anxious within our families, we have a fear of judgment, we have a fear of not being accepted. So yeah, like, but you see, like, when you see, that'll be a simple way that people can kind of dissipate that anxiety, is to acknowledge where exactly is this anxiety coming from? What am I afraid of? Because anxiety and fear are very like correlated. And once you acknowledge what you're afraid of, it's like it starts to become less, you know?
So would you say fear is a natural emotion to have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's everybody gets scared.
Mm.
Nobody's like, you know, without any doubt or without any fear of anything. And I think that, but fear is also something of our, I feel like fear is something of our own making because everybody fears different things. Like somebody may fear something very physical, like I fear drowning, but somebody else's fear may be something purely emotional, like I fear not feeling safe when I'm communicating. Like, so everybody's fears are different and they're subjective. And so that's when I say, like, fear is really of our own making. Yeah, it kind of is because we're choosing the things that we're going to be afraid of.
Mm.
But since it is of our own making, I also feel like it's something that we can overcome and we can get through. There are a lot of things that I used to be scared of that I'm not scared of no more,
Mm.
so.
Okay. Great. Now the last chapter I want to talk about is abundance. Now I hear, a lot of
Ah,
people say that, especially, in spiritual, a lot of spiritual people say it, but what actually is abundance? Is abundance like having a bank full of money or abundance of car or the big house? What is abundance from your
I
viewpoint?
also feel like abundance is subjective. I
Mm.
don't really classify abundance by like material things
Okay.
because they can easily go.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And then you have all these material things, and then if they go, you won't feel abundant anymore. So I feel like anything that's fleeting doesn't really constitute abundance. I feel like it's the inner things that constitutes abundance. If you have $1 million, think about what on the inside, or what internally did you use to get this like $1 million, you know?
Okay. So it's more so like your inner qualities that gives you abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's the book. Like I told you all, this is a small book, but it says a whole lot. And I strongly encourage anybody out here listening to grab the book. It's an easy read. Not a bunch of big
Yes.
words and nothing like that. But it says a
Yes.
whole lot. I strongly encourage you all to get this. And she says it's available on Amazon. Now we got a couple of minutes left. I kind of want to talk about a few other things. Like for example, your T-shirt. It says Energy. Is that like a particular
Ah,
brand that you have?
this is me. This is my
Okay.
brand, Energy. I
Hmm.
have been working on it for a few years now, maybe like 2 years.
All right.
Um, and energy is just a take on energy, which we
Mm-hmm.
all are. We all are energy. I know we are very physical with flesh and bones and organs and those things, but I feel like our spirit is what really makes us. And so the only way that you can ever get in tune with your own spirit is by going inside.
Hmm.
So your energy is not outside, your energy comes from the inside. Use the internal to affect the external. And
Okay.
so,
Right. And how
yeah.
can someone get your T-shirt?
So I have a website. It's www.thesunflowerline.com, and you can order merchandise from there. And I am working on some new designs for energy that are going to look entirely different
Mhm.
from this. So I'm working on that now.
Okay. And what else are you into? Like I said, I follow you on Instagram, and sometimes I see you at the lakefront with your bowls and stuff like that.
So
Right.
yeah, I play the sound bowls. I've been playing the sound bowls for 3 years.
Mhm.
And I just recently got my certifications um to play. So I have a certification in music and sound therapy, and then I have a certification in meditation and
Yeah.
mindfulness. Um, so yeah, that don't make me like no guru or nothing. That'd be the thing that I'll be wanting people to know. Like I feel like I'm just very like normal. Like just because I have these certifications and these things, and I've had these trainings and this knowledge base, that doesn't make me any higher than any other person. I still experience very messy, very nasty emotions. I'll sometimes still have like a negative thought pattern that I need to get out of. Sometimes I may be mad, you know what I'm saying, or angry and need some alone time. Like I think that I'm just very human, and I want people to really embrace their entire story, not just the parts that look good, but you are who you are, and that's okay, that's cool. And so I think that that's also brought a lot to my spiritual practice, is being able to be in touch with the things that aren't as pretty.
Mhm.
So
Okay. And
yes.
okay, so that's good stuff. So and and just tell us real quickly, what's the purpose of a sound bowl? Then
So sound bolts, well, they produce very pure, very um untouched sounds, and
Mhm.
so our bodies resonate and vibrate at all times, but our bodies are very responsive to sound. And so, how you feel when you listen to music, you may take on the emotions of the song. But since sound bowls produce the pure, uninterrupted tones, our bodies are able to resonate at different frequencies. And
Okay.
so, you have so many frequencies and so many notes and so many octaves that produce different effects. There's one bowl that I just got recently. It's G note, it's note G, which corresponds to our throat, but it's at 396 hertz, which is how frequency is measured in the scientific community. And so I know I mentioned that in the book, and
Mhm.
396 hertz is actually good for healing, transmuting shame and guilt, um, and really being helpful for anxiety.
Mm.
And so, but when you hear the tone, it's very pure, it's very even, it's very soothing. And so it draws you in and it helps you relax. And the relaxation and the calmness that the sounds produce just from the sound itself being so pure, it allows those frequencies to kind of resonate in the body, and to cause like healing effects in the body. And so that's why sound baths are so important, because you can hear a tone for a quick second and then it's like, okay. But if you're engrossed in the sound, and I'm doing like the motion and stuff with my arm, but if you're like engrossed in the sound, it it takes it kind of gives the body time to recognize what's going on, you know.
Mm.
But sound bowls are very helpful. They have like saved my life on multiple occasions.
Oh wow, nice, nice. So in the last couple of minutes we got, kind of tell us what are some of the future things we can expect from Indigo the Writer? You got any more book projects? Are you gonna be teaching classes? What's on the burner for the
um,
future?
well, I'm gonna be doing my first like public sound bath in September. It's gonna
Oh,
be September 23rd. Yeah, it's called the Cloud9 Sound Bath. I'm doing a lot of preparation for that. Mainly the prep is getting a really, really good set of bowls.
mhm.
Um, and just learning more. I actually have a workshop tomorrow, a 2-day workshop where I'll be going to kind of like listen to other sound healers and get more tips. So it's something that I'm really going to prepare like my mind and my spirit for. And I do have another book that I'm working on, but it'll be more of a like an adult coloring book.
Okay,
Um, and so that, and then new designs, and yeah, I'm just growing with everybody.
nice.
I'm growing like everybody else.
Right. And lastly,
Yeah.
can you shout out your social medias? Like if anybody's out here listening who wants to get in contact with you to know further, how people can reach you, like you got Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Kai Sunflower. So KAI sunflower underscore.
Okay. Right.
Hmm.
And then we say, so we got that's your Instagram. You got the place. So that's her Instagram. And she can shout it out. The place, you should go grab some of those T-shirts. They're really nice. I have a couple of them myself. So I just want to
Yay.
really thank you for taking time out your busy day to come on my platform and discuss your book. It was, I read the book. It was just real enlightening to hear you expound on the stuff I read. I really enjoyed this.
Yay. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. I
I
remember.
feel so famous.
Oh, you're gonna be famous because you got good stuff. You got a lot of good stuff going on. So yeah, you definitely gonna be famous.
Thank
I'm like,
you.
like I remember her when she used to sell her T-shirts at the restaurant.
Yes, literally first started.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there you have it, YouTube. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I did. This is Indigo the Writer. Go check her book out first and foremost. Grab a T-shirt. Follow her on Instagram. She's a young lady, but she has a lot of wisdom. So tune
Wow.
in. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next edition of People You Should Know.
Thank you.